Imagine making $1,000 handbag, flawless, brand new, never worn, and then deliberately setting it on fire. Now imagine doing that with millions of dollars of products every single year as official company policy. This isn't a hypothetical. So the most prestigious luxury brands on earth have been caught doing exactly this, incinerating perfectly good, unsold goods rather than letting anyone have them cheap. It sounds insane. It sounds wasteful. And from a certain cold business angle, it's brilliant. Let's start with what actually happened, because it's real. A few years ago, one famous British luxury house admitted in its own annual report that it had destroyed tens of millions of dollars worth of unsold clothing, accessories, and perfume in a single year. Not donated, not recycled, burned. And they weren't alone. This is a quiet, common practice across the high end of fashion and watches. The public was furious when it came out. But to understand why a company would torch its own inventory, you have to understand what a luxury brand is actually selling. Because it is not handbags. What a luxury brand sells is exclusivity. The leather, the stitching, the logo, those are just the physical carrier for the real product, which is the feeling of having something most people can't. And that feeling has one mortal enemy, the discount rack. The moment a $1,000 bag shows up in a bargain bin for $200, something terrible happens to the brand. Every existing customer who paid full price feels like a fool. The aura of rarity evaporates. The brand stops being a symbol of status and becomes just another label on a clearance shelf. To a luxury house, a deep discount isn't a lost sale. It's an acid that dissolves the entire thing they've spent a century building. So now the burning makes a cold kind of sense. Faced with unsold stock, a normal retailer marks it down to clear out. Better to get something than nothing. But a luxury brand does the opposite math. If they discount, they damage the one thing that lets them charge a fortune in the first place. The perception that their products are never cheap, never common, never available to just anyone. Destroying the unsold goods protects the price of everything else. They are not burning handbags. They are burning the evidence that their handbags could ever be cheap. The loss on the incinerated stock is the insurance premium on the brand. There's a second reason, and it's grubbier: counterfeits and the gray market. If unsold luxury goods leak out the back door, sold off cheap to discount resellers, or quietly funneled into outlet channels, the brand loses control of where its name appears and who's wearing it. Worse, those leaked goods can be used to make convincing fakes or flood markets the brand wants to keep tightly managed. By destroying overstock outright, the company keeps an iron grip on exactly how much of its product exists in the world and at what price. Control of scarcity is the whole game, and you cannot control scarcity if your stuff is escaping into the wild at any price a reseller will pay. Now here's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable as a customer. This means the high price was never really about the cost to make the thing. We tend to assume an expensive bag is expensive because it's so costly to produce. But a brand that can afford to burn millions in finished goods is telling you, loudly, that the production cost is trivial compared to the markup. The price isn't built up from materials and labor. It's set from the top down by what the status is worth, and then defended ruthlessly against anything that might reveal how cheap the underlying object actually is. The bonfire is the proof. You don't burn things that are expensive to make. You burn things whose value lives entirely in their story. But let me push back on the brilliance, because there's a real crack forming. The public backlash to this practice has been brutal, and it's growing. In an age where waste and sustainability are front and center, we burned millions of dollars of new clothes to protect our image is an increasingly toxic thing to admit. Some countries have started passing laws to ban the destruction of unsold goods outright, forcing brands to donate or recycle instead. So the very move that protects the brand's exclusivity now threatens it from a different direction, through its reputation. The smart play of the last century is becoming a liability in this one. The brands that win the next era will be the ones that figure out how to stay scarce without lighting a match. And that's the genuinely hard problem they're racing to solve. How do you keep something exclusive without destroying the excess? Some are getting smarter about it, producing less in the first place, making more to order, leaning into resale markets they control, or turning old stock into new limited pieces. The goal is the same as the bonfire: Never let the product become common. Never let the price crack. They're just trying to do it without the part that ends up in a damning headline. Because the underlying law hasn't changed at all. For a luxury brand, available to everyone is the same as worthless. So here's the lesson, and it reaches far past fashion. Price and cost are two completely different things, and the most profitable businesses on earth work hard to keep you from noticing the gap. A luxury brand burning its own inventory is just the most dramatic possible version of a rule that's everywhere once you see it. When what you're really selling is a feeling, status, identity, belonging, protecting that feeling can be worth more than any individual sale. They'll torch the product to protect the story, because the story was always the product. The handbag was just along for the ride. If you want a next breakdown, subscribe. One new company every few days. Next time, another business doing something that looks insane until you see the cold logic underneath.